Could Cooper Flagg run it back at Duke, or will the bright lights of the NBA come calling? We're going to answer that. And if he does indeed stay, where should his draft focus go to? Next on Locked On Wizards.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's good, Wiz fam? It's your boy Brandon Scott, aka BScott, with my guy Abdullah, aka AB. And we are both credentialed members of the NBA media and your hosts of Locked On Wizards. So tonight we have a lot to talk about, man. Could Cooper Flagg run it back at Duke, or will the bright lights of the NBA come calling? Oh, intriguing. And if he indeed does return back to Duke, where should the focus in the draft shift to? And then, are we good at guard? Are we good at guard, or should we explore other options? I don't think so, but we'll talk about it. And South Sudan has issues with visas. Will that affect Maluk out of Duke? Will he be able to realize his NBA dreams? So we're going to talk about all that and more. So AB, let's get into the first thing tonight. Could Cooper Flagg run it back at Duke, or will the bright lights of the NBA come calling? So two-part question, AB. Number one, do you think he'll return to Duke, or will he enter the NBA draft? And if indeed he does return to Duke, where should the draft focus shift to?
Yeah, no, as much as I love Cooper Flagg, and I know he wanted that chip here in Duke, one and done and go to the league, I just think the money's going to be there, and the bright lights are going to be calling for him. And 18 years old, why not start your NBA career right now? I get it, it's Duke, but right now you want to focus on your NBA career, and why not start it as soon as possible? So I don't think there's any way, shape, or form. I get you losing the Final Four, but I don't think he's staying in Duke. And when it comes to the Wizards, again, I don't think they should focus on the guard position at all. I think we're in this guard room that we have with Bob Carrington, Jordan Poole, Marcus Smart. I think we're good. I really think we're good. And if Cooper Flagg somehow we don't get Cooper Flagg or he stays in Duke, I think you shift towards maybe trading back and getting that guy in Derek Queen and maybe acquiring more draft capital, because, again, you want to pair up a big with Alex Sarr, and that would be a great front court. So at the end of the day, for the Wizards, I don't think they should focus so much on the guard position, because we've seen flashes of Bub and Jordan Poole, not even 26 yet. Like, the sky's the limit for both of them, and I can't wait. And whatever this front office does, I'm full faith that they know what they're doing. And it would be nice to have Cooper Flagg in DC, but at the end of the day, we can still win a championship without Cooper Flagg.
I think there's a slight chance he could go back to Duke if winning a national championship is that important to him. There could be a chance, but I mean, even if you look at it through the lens of NIL deals, you're not going to make any. You can make millions with an NIL deal at Duke, but you're not making money like you would in the league. I mean, the money's going to come calling, man. I mean, it calls everybody. I mean, there's some players he value that championship in college, some don't. Michael Jordan was a guy where he was very close to go back to school the year he was drafted. So there's some people that they like that experience. Some people are just like, look, I want to do my 1 year and call it a day. So it all depends. Will he stay at Duke? Now, if I'm going to bet on it, he goes to the NBA. I know there's been reports that, he doesn't want to go to Washington or doesn't want to go to Charlotte, but I mean, tough deal, man. I mean, it is what it is. You're not Eli Manning, bro. So, like, you're going to go, we're going to go. But then there's reports where it says that he would feel blessed to be in the NBA. So, yeah, like everything else, man, what's true, what's not, is it him or his homeboy, So, I would think that he would feel blessed to be in the NBA, because I think that if you look at what the situation you have here in Washington, this is a good situation. With Alex Sarr, what he's going to be able to do down the road, Bilal Coulibaly at the wing, that's a nice 3-4-5 right there. I mean, Bilal, Cooper Flagg, and Alex Sarr. Ooh, I'm trying to tell you. And with the guard situation we're about to talk about in a little bit, I mean, here's the thing, man. I think a lot of people who say that, he doesn't want to go to Washington, or they're skeptical, is that there's always these fanboys where they're like, they want to root after the good teams, but then they want to call the bad teams trash. And it's like, it's easy to call the Wizards trash, but you don't see the process. Like, you don't see the fact that we have a new front office. You don't see the fact that they have a new scouting department. You don't see the fact that they have a new coaching staff, that their priority is development. You don't see this young core we have. You don't see how they're getting something out of guys who were, Chris Middleton, it would have been unheard of to trade him 4 years ago. Now, I mean, same thing with Marcus Smart. These guys could be contributors for us. I mean, this team is balanced. They're young. They could be dangerous the next couple of years, AB. I'm just trying to tell you. So I think he comes to the NBA. I mean, I think there's a slight chance he goes back to college if winning that chip is that important to him. But even then, you always run the risk of the injury, man. And I think that's when a lot of people think about it at that level, is that, yeah, you can run it back, but what if he gets hurt? Then his draft stock goes down. That means his paycheck goes down. And You wanted to go pro basketball. You say it's all about going pro, but it all comes down to money. You want the money. I mean, let's be real. That's the best part of being a pro. Um, Outside of playing at the highest level, that is. So, like I said, I think that he goes into the league. So, um, where does the shift go if he does stay at Duke? For me, I'm with the AB. Like I said, we're about to talk about that more in depth, but I think they're good at guard. Dylan Harper is intriguing. I mean, they're comparing him to Kay Cunningham. I mean, we know there's tough situations coming up as far as the contracts with JP13. If they want to keep him around, which I think they should, it's going to cost that. It's going to cost them. Bob Carrington looks like he could be good two guard, good point guard, but and AJ Johnson just is unreal with explosiveness. So AB, real quick, man. If he Ace Bailey, should that be a focus? I mean,
Yeah, no. So as much as I love Ace, and you talk about Dylan Harper, Kate Cunningham, bro, I just feel like with Jordan Poole, the improvement that he has had here in DC, the role that he solidified, I think at least a lot of fans should have bought back into him. Didn't start off so well. I just think it would suck. I get it, and the NBA is a business, but right now Jordan Poole with the game winners, the shots from deep, and I think him getting better defensively, him limiting the turnovers, him being that guy, that mentor, the guy that was kicked out of Golden State, was labeled as this type of guy, a locker room cancer, a distraction, not good at all. Only goes crazy when some people are specific people are courtside. At the end of the day, I think they should keep Jordan Poole, and I think they should stick with what they have and just focus on the wing position. And if it's Derek Queen or whoever you bring in a small forward position, I think we're really good at the guard spot. You mentioned AJ Johnson. He is so bouncy, and he's only scratching the surface. So I can't wait. And I just don't – I think it would be too soon to trade Jordan Poole. Now, I get it. If the trade package is just so good where you just have to think about it, then maybe consider it. But right now, I'm a big JP13 fan. I think you are as well, B. And it would suck to see him not in a DC uniform, outside of a DC uniform.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of the draft strategy drastically changes if Cooper Flagg goes back to Duke because, do you look at Dylan Harper and again, the tough situations coming up with Jordan Poole. Like I said, it will cost his organization to keep him. Like I said, I'm a big JP13 fan, but you look at it from a 50-50 standpoint where could they re-sign him? Yeah, they could. But the trade interest will be heavy too. So, it depends on several factors. Does he want to be here long term? He's a guy who has shown that he likes the city. He's mentioned that his fan base, really wants to see you perform before they really get behind you, but they've rallied behind him. I mean, he's becoming a fan favorite. Like I said, he's really stepped up in many areas, not only on the court, but off the court in that respect also. So, I mean, Cooper Flagg going back to Duke does change the strategy. Do you go guard? Dylan Harper could be intriguing. It could be intriguing. And it could be an option. But Ace Bailey, to me, okay, what do you do with Bilal then? Because I see Bilal Coulibaly as a small forward, man. Two guard, I need to see more offensive output for him to even be considered an option at two guard. You see taller two guards. Devin Vassell out of San Antonio. He's one guy who I believe is around 6'8", 6'9". He's, he can play the two guard predominantly. But that would be the move because I don't see Ace Bailey as being a guy who can play the four. And so if you go with Ace Bailey, then you have to shift Bilal to the two because you're not going to bench him because you're what destroys development, man. Because you can't start a guy 2 years and then mess around and put him on the bench unless you find a better option. And scoring wise, would Ace Bailey be a better option? Yes, but defense, Ace Bailey has high defensive potential, man. But we'll see. I think the biggest thing we said all the time, maybe, is that we have options. But Cooper Flagg, whether he goes to the NBA or whether he goes to Duke, has huge ramifications not only for the Wizards, for the landscape of the top 10. Because, I mean, it changes the strategies, not only for the Wizards, but for every team in the top 10. Because once you take him out of the pool, then, the player that number 2 and number 3 wants, probably gone at 1. So, I definitely think things are going to change the trajectory of the draft, not only for the Wizards, but overall. So, we already talked about it, AB. Are we good at guard? I think we both think we are, but like I said, there are some tough decisions coming up. So we're going to look at, are the Wizards good at the three-headed monster at AJ Johnson, Jordan Poole, and Bob Carrington? Or could there be some changes coming up in the next couple of years? All right, before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk, though. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years, though. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial, LLC, member SIPC. Gold memberships is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. All right, AB, we were just talking about it, man. The 3-headed monster at guard we had. We didn't talk about Marcus Smart. You say the 4-headed monster. That's one heck of a monster. Let me tell you. But the question for you tonight is, you look at what Jordan Poole has been able to do, right? Fringe All-Star. He had a really good year, man, a career season. AJ Johnson, explosiveness, athletic, giving you glimpses, man, at both guard spots. And then Bub Carrington, same thing, brings the scoring, brings the defense. I mean, two-part question. How good can this guard rotation be? And do you think that the Wizards are set long-term with this guard rotation?
Yeah, no, you mentioned Bub Carrington coming off a career high recent.
Yeah.
Again, right now, this Wizards guard rotation, I don't want to say it's right now we can compare to the Wall and Beal backcourt that we have, but I think potentially it could be there because Jordan Poole and Bub Carrington, 9 out, I think they can have potential to drop 20 points each. So I think with Marcus Smart too, the mentorship, he is coming here and plugged in and been that monster, that the guy that brings the tenacity is there. There's everything that's involved with him and his mentorship, and it's been Chris Middleton as well with those two, and AJ Johnson, athletic as heck. You can look at his tape right now, these past couple of games. I just think right now, I think they're set, and that's why I'm just not so big on drafting a guard and just ruining. I don't want to see ruining, but kind of altering the development of Bub Carrington, because I really think Bub can be a star in this league. Who's not even 20 years old yet, out of B-more. Those B-more guys are different. We know it be. So I think right now, if you're the Wizards, I think you're solidifying the guard room. And if you do bring in someone, it's probably going to be a scenario where you trade Jordan Poole or some other guy, and hopefully you get some type of value back. But as of right now, I think we're good.
Okay. And before I get into my take, I'm gonna switch it up on you. Somebody offers you 2 first-round picks for Jordan Poole. Do you make that trade?
Oh, no, see, no, that's 2 firsts, man. That's. Do you know what is it like a top 5? Top? We don't know that.
Nah, it ain't gonna be no top. Obviously, gonna be a couple of first rounders, but I don't see lottery, man. But let's say a couple first rounders in a prospect.
If that prospect supplies your needs, I just think, especially he's gonna want a lot of money because he's been playing well. Maybe you consider it, because that's great value at 2 first round picks. At one point, JP, I mean, his value wasn't that high. Now, like with his play recently.
Oh, yeah.
But as much as I'm a big JP13 fan, I think you keep him. I don't even see a team even doing that. Maybe I don't, unless like a team that thinks that if you plug him in, they're going to win a championship with him. But that's something I actually might have to consider. That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think they will consider proposals. I mean, that would be unrealistic to not. They're definitely going to entertain deals, man. But I think we're good. I think this is the guard rotation for the future because. Yes, you eventually have to sign Jordan Poole long term. He's got 2 years left on his contract, and the next step is probably a max contract. Now, would it be a super duper max? Nah. I mean, he doesn't fit certain criteria like Bradley Beal did, so it's not going to be on that level, man. But I think there is a scenario where you can see him staying there long term. You always keep the trade scenarios in the back of your mind because you know the business of the NBA, and we thought that Denny was part of the long term future, and then he's on another team in a different conference. So, Will Dog is going to be aggressive. He's going to entertain any deal that's going to make this organization better. But Jordan Poole has done all, everything you want from a guy that wants to be here long term. I mean, he's trying to connect with the fan base off the court, man. You've seen it from leadership standpoint working with a lot of these young guys. He's been a guy who's been willing to learn underneath veterans like Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart, and Rashawn Holmes. On the court, he's having a career season. He's become more of an efficient player. You see more of his vision as a point guard. 2 guard, you see potential with being with his scoring as far as the 2 guard. I think he checks all boxes for us for a guy who's a fringe all-star. And when we start becoming more competitive, He's going into his prime. So you're catching a young player going into their prime on a team that needs that type of energy, man. So I think he's a keeper. AJ Johnson, explosive. I mean, I see him long term as the six man, the kind of that combo guard coming off the second unit. He's a microwave scorer, man, with his speed, man. I mean, he's got that speed where he can just penetrate the lane. I mean, now you start to see him really start to set other people up with his passing, with his vision, man. So, like I said, he's a guy who is definitely a hybrid. He's he's a combo guard who can distribute, but he can be that microwave scorer. And I think his long-term piece is being that six man coming off the second unit. But I mean, I'm starting to warm up more and more to a backcourt of Jordan Poole and Bub Carrington. I'm being real with you. Because Buck is a flat out score. I mean, now he's becoming more and more efficient as a scorer. And once a scorer becomes efficient, he's deadly. I'm telling you, when Bub figures it out on a consistent basis, he is going to be a star. Be more Bub is going to light this league on fire, man. I'm trying to tell you. Because you see the mid-range, you see the three-point. You see the times where you see that floor general potential. So, I guess out of, we often talk about Marcus Smart. Not enough, a little bit as far as the long-term picture of the guard situation. But AB, even with the finger injury, he still is producing. So do you think the Wizards will be able to get him to come back on a reasonable contract? Or you think he's going to, with his trade value going up, being that veteran, you might see him gone at some point?
That's a good question. Because again, I think right now, your old Dawkins, you brought him in to make sure that he is that mentor. But if that value is there, I don't see why not. And what I love about Marcus Smart is you're on a losing team. You're not making the playoffs, but you're still going out there playing with 110%. And that a lot of vets in the NBA, they don't do that. A lot of them are just not playing, and they're getting paid a lot of money, which is insane. But it's a topic for a different day. I think if you're the Wizards, if you keep Marcus Smart there just for the development of Bub Carrington. You talk about Bub Carrington. I think his ability to even pass the ball around. I see every day after a game or in the middle of the game, Bub Carrington, youngest guy to do this, youngest guy to do that. It's amazing. And I think with Marcus Smart, with JP, with these guys around him, I think the sky's the limit for him. And I just don't think, and I don't see a scenario where you want to trade Marcus Smart. If the value is there, again, like you mentioned with JP, why not? But I think he's that great mentor for this Wizards team.
Yeah, I agree. I think you build from this point. I think we're past the point where you're flipping veterans for, picks and prospects. I think we got the prospects in Kobe Jones and AJ Johnson. We got the picks. We got the pick swaps. I think we've done all the trading we're going to do as far as flipping veteran talent. Now, it's not to say they, look, Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton, they're vested in the game. So they could make it vocal like, hey, man, can you do us a favor by sending us somewhere where we could be, in the running to win the championship? I could see a scenario like that. Like kind of, Russell Westbrook. I think Westbrook wouldn't have had a problem coming back, but I think he wanted to chase the ring again. And I think he wanted to go back home to LA, and we were able to accommodate him. So all the better, the list goes on with what we got in return. But I think that you could see a scenario where one or both of them would say, "Hey, do me a solid," and I'll definitely put the word out that this is the type of organization I'm get, because that's the thing. This could be a win-win situation with that, because even if we accommodate them, if they don't want to be here long term, they're going to put word out there that this is a front office that is willing to go the extra mile for a player, and then that's part of bringing in those free agents. Changing the culture, because like you said, the culture has been trash. The previous GMs here, man. Tommy Shepard just gave money away like it was nothing. I mean, one of us could have got a max contract. I'm just saying. And then Ernie was just bad. I mean, you can argue the same thing with him, but then he couldn't even draft. So, and they never made this a destination. I think more and more you see this as a destination because players aren't stupid, man. Players look, they know what organizations are revamping themselves. They see what's going on here in DC. The scouting, the development. The general manager that has hit on all draft picks already. I mean, they're changing the narrative of DC here. So, and when it comes to Marcus Smart, I think that if he wants to stay, all the better. You definitely, sign him to a reasonable contract. And then you got a guy who can still produce, a guy who could be that mentor. He can provide leadership, toughness, because he still has that hard-nosed mentality to him. But, like I said, if they want to be accommodated, because they will be expiring contracts. So that would be valuable contract, even though they're veterans, even though they're not the same players. Expiring contract is valuable because that is a contract where you can obtain him going to a playoff push, and that contract's not going to weigh you down long term. It's gone at the end of the year, so very valuable. So, I'm with you. I think that we're good on guards, man. And looking at Marcus Smart, I think that you should definitely entertain the idea of him staying long term. So, all right, we got a prospect coming out of Duke that his visa may be an issue for him getting into the NBA draft. So we're gonna get into that, and whether if we decide to draft him, is he worth the wait? If indeed they mediate the situation. We're going to get into that. But before we do, tonight's episode is brought to you by Betterhelp, baby. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. But traditional in-person therapy can be expensive, often ranging from $100 to $250 per session. That's where BetterHelp comes in. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense, saving you time and money. Therapy isn't just for life's toughest moments, though. Nah, it can help with everyday stress, learning how to set boundaries, or developing positive coping skills. Have access to support when you need it, when it can make a big difference in your life. So, I said all the time, counseling is talking to somebody, getting that help, resetting yourself not only mentally, should be very, very important. And I definitely recommend that you utilize BetterHelp because BetterHelp is, look, they work on your schedule. It's not on the counselor schedule, it's your schedule. So the price is not expensive as in-person therapy. You can definitely get your money's worth and definitely get that much deserved help. So your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, AB, before we call it a night, so this story came out on the Athletic. So if you don't subscribe to the Athletic, I definitely recommend you do so. So the story is put out through the Athletic. And it says Duke's Common Malak likely unable to leave, re-enter U.S. after South Sudanese visas revoked. So I'm gonna read the story. And obviously, this is not a political channel, so we're gonna look at this issue through the lens of sports, right? Through basketball. So looking at this, it says the decision by the Trump administration to revoke visas for South Sudanese passport holders could affect the ability of Duke men's basketball player Kaman Malak to re-enter the United States if he were to leave. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced the decision before the Duke Final Four game on Saturday, saying it had been made because South Sudan refused to accept citizens deported from the U.S. in a timely manner. 7'2" freshman Malak averaged 8.6 points in 39 games this season. Now, he is originally from South Sudan. He resettled to Uganda. He was scouted out of Senegal, or he went to the NBA Academy in Senegal, and he was recruited to Duke for the 2025 season. And as you know, Duke's season has definitely ended, and he's considered a likely high pick if he declares for the NBA draft. So, AB, real quick, and like I said, we're looking through this through the lens of sports, man. Nothing political. If the Wizards were to look at him as a prospect, and with the in the issue with his visa still in question, do you think he's worth the wait? Because I think that it wouldn't be a long-term issue, but an issue that would definitely in the short term, kind of curtail his ability to, maybe training camp, stuff like that, or summer league. Will you still entertain the idea of drafting him?
Yeah, no, talking basketball. No, I'm joking. But I think those that first training camps, those rookie tryouts, those are key crucial developing dates for as any NBA prospect, and especially coming out of Duke. You had that high run going to the Final Four, and now you're transitioning to the NBA. And I get it. Like he's a big dude, 7'2", and he defensively and he can press in the paint is a beast. But at the end of the day, if you're the Wizards, it could be something to come into play, because if you think he could be the guy and he's not there because of the visas, the NBA is all about in-person job. Unfortunately it's not remote. You can't be, in away. You gotta be there. You gotta show up. It's your 9 to 5. So I think if you're the Wizards, that's something you have to consider. And hopefully it's not the case. I love the guy. It seems like a good guy. And I think if you do bring him in DC, it's going to be a situation you're going to have to monitor, because, again, it all goes back to tracking your development. And he's not the only young guy on this team, so it could have played an effect in chemistry. So it's just something you're going to have to see how it dwindles down these next couple of months.
Yeah, I'll say this, and like I said, we're obviously looking at it through the lens of basketball. If it tends to be a long-term issue, like you said, AB, it could be an issue because, training camp, summer league, those are valuable for a young player. I mean, they're valuable. You could argue that the struggles that Alex Hart went through in summer league has a lot to do with his development and how good he's gotten, man. Because look, when you get to the point where people are trying to call you a bust after 5 summer league games, you want to get better. I'm just saying, and he's done a great job and should definitely be in the running for Rookie of the Year. But looking at Kaman Malak, man, it could be an issue if it's a long-term issue. That and it's hurt him as a player. Now, let me say this. When you look at, and like I said, I'm not going to get too in deep in the situation, but I'll say this, that other countries that have had kind of dealt with the same issue with the current administration, which I think it was Venezuela. They had an issue where they weren't doing it, and then I think a week later it was mediated. So it may not be a long-term thing. South Sudan, I think that from the article, the problem was not accepting people. I think they eventually will. They come to an agreement. So I don't think it's gonna be a long-term thing. But if it is, that could be a red flag for drafting him. And it's unfortunate because the young man is looked at as a top 10 pick. And like I said, that's unfortunate about this. Like I said, I'm not gonna get into it, but I don't say this, man. Just I like to see the young man get a chance. I don't want anything that's non-sports related that become a detriment to his development because he has nothing to do with politics. That's where he's from. He just wants to play basketball. So, and from what I've seen at Duke, he could do it at a high level. So, could it be red flags? Absolutely, but I think that the issue will be mediated probably faster than we think. I think it probably be done this week, man, because looking at other examples in other countries who've had similar issues with the administration as far as visas. So, all right, AB, we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. We talked about it a lot tonight, man. So everybody definitely get into the comment section and let us know, do you agree, disagree, and why? Like I said, when it comes to Cooper Flagg, do you think he'll go to the NBA or going back to Duke, and why? And then looking at the 3-guard rotation we have in AJ Johnson, Bub Carrington, and JP13, are we set for the long term? You guys let us know. So, AB, before we roll, anything else you want to cover, brother?
Tonight is the national championship game. A lot of guys are harping on Clayton Jr. He's been balling out. His draft stock has been rising. So that's a guy you definitely want to monitor. But now, man, the Wizards, this offseason's coming up. Can't wait. It's going to be crucial from free agency to the draft to the summer league. I really am excited to see who's on the summer league roster. And yeah, man, year 3 of the rebuild. Can't wait.
Yes, sir. You heard it here first. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. But before we do, I got something to cover with you guys when it comes to the NBA newsletter giveaway for Locked On NBA. So it says the playoffs may be out of reach this season, but the future's bright for the Washington Wizards. Stay updated all off-season news, draft coverage, and expert analysis by subscribing to the Locked On Wizards newsletter. Plus, you can win big by subscribing. Subscribe between April 7th, 2025 and April 30th, 2025 for a chance to win one of these amazing prizes. One is a $2,500 Best Buy gift card to upgrade your sports cave. Ooh, intriguing. A $300 Gametime gift card. Uh-oh. And a $200 Fanatics gift card. Oh, get exclusive insights into free agency, draft coverage, and team updates delivered right to your inbox. Join the Locked On podcast, Locked On Wizards, for trusted coverage every single day. Subscribe to enter today by clicking the link in the description. So, all right, everybody, like I said, we're going to go ahead and call it a night. Hail to the Wizards and peace. See you guys tomorrow night.